here in the World's Group Stage.
And here we go, pick and ban getting kicked off. See what the focus will be for both sides. Last time was a lane swap from Splice, a bit of a disastrous early game. See if they can turn it around this time.
Very interesting to see J-Team actually banning out the GP for themselves, because I wouldn't have been shocked to see a GP first pick with how good Rest can be at that champion. If I'm Splice, though, I really want to save my last pick here for Humanoid, try to protect him. He really has been struggling, and Fofo has been dominant and really crushed them last time these two teams matched.
Yeah, it's a strategy that Splice go for a lot because I think their drafts are fairly predictable in that they go for safe, blind, pickable options in the top lane, like the Gangplank. We've seen the Gnar taken very early for this team as well, and then they hold on to the picks to make sure they can have a really strong 2 versus 2 bottom lane so Humanoid can have a counter. It always feels like the Splice formula is one they go for over and over again, but that does mean that they are very predictable coming into a draft.
Now the first pick can come through. See what the priority is going to be. Jace would be an interesting one. Mixed success, of course, over the course of the tournament, but it looks like they're hovering through a number of flex. Never mind, as a team. We'll see what they're going to go for. No surprise.
Xayah coming through. Despite the fact that Rakan is already banned out, they will be going for this Xayah. Does certainly pair well up with other things too, but Nautilus and Rakan are kind of the go-to supports generally alongside this, so going to be interested to see where they want to take us, if they want to look for something a little bit more aggressive, like the Leona even that we saw Norscaron bring out before.
Yeah, I'm not personally sold on the Norscaron and Leona. I think a lot of these champions...
What about the Koala Leona?
That I could be on board with. We'll have to see. But me, when I look at Norscaron, I actually want to see him gravitate towards something like the Thresh is, I think, something that works very well for him. Because when he's on these primary initiation champions, sometimes he just chooses the wrong moments to go in. I think Thresh gives him the ability to, like, wait, double check, does he actually want to go in on that hook, and give Splice more fail-safe options with tools like the Lantern.
I agree. I think having the ability to disengage or engage on that support does allow him a little bit more comfort. Certainly looked out of his element in the Leona game, particularly in that dive that was really overforced.
And speaking of comfort, Xerxes getting his hands on the Gragas, but the cost is that he now has to give up the Kayle over to the side of J-Team. Has been a wonderfully powerful champion thus far in the tournament. They're going to get the Jarvan as well, but there it is. You asked for it. Splice deliver, Ender. It is the Thresh for Norscaron.
Yep, I like this a whole lot coming through from Splice. Has the ability to proc those plasma stacks relatively easily. Also with the Lantern, very good lane gank setup too for a champion like Xerxes, like the Gragas coming through from Xerxes into the bottom lane. And a lot of games, Splice love to play around this 2 versus 2 in the bottom lane with initiation tools. We've seen stuff like the Veigar cage next to the Thresh in the past, and while Kai'Sa won't have that same CC, the Thresh always opens up those gank routes.
I wonder if Splice is going to ban out Morgana. They've already taken Blitz away, which is considered a very good answer to the Thresh, so Morgana, I think, would pair well with the Xayah, be a good answer to some of the initiation here. Also works incredibly well alongside Kayle, because Kayle Ultimate plus Morgana Shield equals immunity to everything.
And you also have J-Team now banning away these longer range scaling options that you can take up against the Kayle later on. So I think Tristana, that's a mid lane focused ban here. Maybe even a Corki too, something we saw Humanoid play a whole lot during the regular season, but removing the scaling outranging tools as well.
And removing the Morgana as well as predicted, Azael. So limiting some of the more comfortable options for the bottom side of J-Team. See what Koala wants to go to. So many supports have been banned away in the draft now. 4. He's going to have to drop down the tier list a little bit to find something, but the Akali will be the final ban as we head into the next pick phase.
It could be something very defensive, like the Braum, if he doesn't really want to commit too heavily, but most of the common pairings really are already gone. You can go to a range support and try to bully a lane, but that always has a pretty high risk against something like Thresh plus Gragas.
Yeah, so now I'm thinking Gnar comes through from Vizicachi. This is one of those blind pick options we mentioned earlier. And now Splice get to wait out. Is the Kayle definitely going into the mid laner's hands for Fofo? That's where we've seen it most throughout this tournament, definitely. But they can give that counter pick, as you mentioned, much earlier towards Humanoid.
I want to see if Rest is going to go for something aggressive. Does he bring out the Aurelia? Does he have the confidence to try to slam this Gnar in lane? Because he is sitting with counter pick right now. Kled, it can be something that works in the Gnar. It is pretty difficult because you have to hit multiple Joust Qs to be able to kind of get his jump on cooldown, and then you can maybe all in. So you have to play it really, really aggressively, and we'll see if it works out.
I mean, the potential for the double flex is there, even if it feels unlikely. If Gnar just wants to farm it on the top side, Kayle could look to match, so potentially locking that in as they feel they can put it in both positions, but the Alistar will be the final pick into the Thresh Kai'Sa lane.
I think it's going to be Kayle mid almost for sure. It can be pretty difficult playing Kayle in the long lane, especially in the early levels with ganking options like Gragas around there. So giving Kayle the defensive ability to kind of sit back. And this is one of Humanoid's champions that he's really well known for.
And you talk about late game scaling insurance, the Cassiopeia is definitely going to be there. And against all these targets that are going to be stacking a ton of HP, stuff like the Twin Fangs, Leandri's Torment alongside it is going to give you the ability to cut through the front line. That 2v2 pair of Cassio and Kai'Sa will be absolutely devastating later on in the match.
I also think it's an incredible disengage or counter-engage type tool. When you have the Kled ultimate flying in, everyone running through, you have the Norse Garen box coming out from the Thresh, you have the Miasma to be able to actually slow down and block a lot of these people who are trying to dash in on top of you, the ultimate Gragas to split people up. So a lot of tools here for Splyce to absorb and then counter engage.
And to also just punish inside the laning phase. Kayle needs time to scale up. You're going to get punished every single time you walk into last hit in this laning phase. So both sides have good teamfight tools. I personally think Splyce have so many good options in disengage, engage. They've got it all.
Both teams building pretty fantastic comps. Splyce finally getting something that they should be comfortable with, and that's crucial. As they move into a game, they lose here, they will only have a chance at a tiebreaker to make it out of groups. CTBC J-Team looking at that second slot, potentially first as we move later in the day. It is do or die for these lineups. Here we go, J-Team versus Splyce. Splyce looking to tie it up, but both teams at 2-2. This J-Team will look to pull ahead. And already, it looks like there will not be a lane swap. Good news, I think, for many Splyce fans.
When I look to the top side of the map, I really do like the choice of Grasp here. Fleet Footwork actually heals you very little in the early game in these types of matchups, and really all Gnar has to do is avoid being all in, right? You're stacking up HP with this, a lot of the resolve, as well as, you know, splashing into, domination here for more healing there from Taste for Blood and things like this is going to make it really tough for the Kled to all in you, and if you can't all in the Gnar, you don't really have much going on in this matchup.
Yeah, I wonder if Vizicsacsi even has the Demolish there as a range versus melee matchup. You assume he has push advantage too, and while Gnar is pretty low range in those early levels before he does get to scale up, can look for plates in this matchup. The one thing I am a little bit concerned about for Vizicsacsi is this is a player that often receives a lot of jungle attention, but from the enemy jungler. He gets ganked a whole lot in the top lane, and if he does expose himself, I think the Jarvan at level 2 can instantly look for plays around the top side of the map.
And Bear Trap on a rope will connect, so a small but positive trade. Clutch is going to continue walking forward.
He's got Conqueror.
He's just going to keep walking him down.
He's going to come back up.
He's going to go to grab him again. Vizicsacsi flashing.
Oh!
Just barely missing the flash. That might cost him his life. Kled now. Pocket Pistol takes him away. Conqueror's still taxed. He's still healing up to a certain degree. Trying to step forward. The barrel hits. First blood. Good for Splyce, but that has to feel so bad for Rest.
It was off to such a good start for Rest as well. You know, this guy had burned the flash from Vizicsacsi, but is late to follow. And then Xerxes is on the Raptors. Rest had made the call thinking Xerxes maybe he's on the bottom side of the map, but that was just not forward thinking. And now he's out of TP, a flash, and a kill.
Yeah, what he really had to do was pre-flash. You got to flash early so you're right on top of him. So even if he flashes, then you can actually pull him back. And I think you get that first blood if you early flash.
Or, and hear me out, Azael, don't flash into the fog of war when you don't know where the enemy jungler is.
I think you can actually not die. If you go in, if you pre-flash, I think you have the possibility of killing that Gnar. And I don't think that a jungler can solo kill you before you can remount.
Yeah, I mean, if he remounts, yeah, he definitely turns that around.
And all I'll say is, I respect the aggressive option. I respect the aggressive flash forward. It just has to feel bad to miss out on that one. But it's good
you want to leave the game right now.
Yeah. You're like, all right, guys, that was
remake. Anyone getting that lag?
Weird bug on stage happened where I just looked really dumb for a second. That's not supposed to happen.
On the bright side, Rest has now won the jungle matchup for his team because Han is able to run in for the
he was
red
making
buff.
space.
Yeah, he's making space for his jungler. Right? It's a genius play. No, Hana had actually gone for a clever path where he could the top side of his jungle, and most teams would assume then the Jarvan passed towards bottom side, but looked for a gank himself. There was a ward that spotted him out, but because Xerxes skipped over his red buff, which he likes to do a lot because he values getting the experience of the Krugs and Raptors so quickly, he almost died to those Krugs, so he had to give up that red.
And as we look away from the top side, I think important to highlight once again that both of Splice's carries are kind of set up for success this time in the matchup versus J team. Because last time we saw this matchup, it was a very, very difficult game for both Kave and Humanoid. And when you compare their effectiveness to that of Fofo's LeBlanc, we see Fofo outmatching in damage. Hold that thought.
This would be bold.
Hook does connect. Root is there, locked up under tower. Norscairn, is it going to happen again? He's so incredibly low. Won't be able to get anything else. Norscairn just barely able to survive.
Koala didn't get his Ignite off, or that's probably a kill. He was actually so low. I think he would have gone down there, but Koala not quite able to get the summoner out in time. And Splice, I mean, what is that dive? That's just
ambitious.
So ambitious.
Yeah, Xerxes.
That's a kind way to put it.
Yeah, it's definitely a kind way to put it, because I don't think you're ever getting a kill right there with all summoners available. Maybe you can zone them away from the tower, but now Norscairn and Kabe have to play super, super carefully because Hana has sort of split the map now, and Xerxes relatively low on mana. I don't actually think the 3v3 is all that favorable for Splice, but they do have the heal advantage.
And we look at it, Koala still has Ignite. Norscairn's only alive because Koala did not push Ignite in that play, but maybe they're trying to just lock him down. Hana, rest coming through, TP onto the bottom side. The Alistar just going to knock him back, a good headbutt to pull away. Lil V going to look to set up it up. Koala will drop in the end. Good TP from Humanoid.
And you were right, Ender. 3v3 wasn't that good, but they had the TP coming through here from the mid lane, and it's not as though Kayle can look to match that. You really don't offer anything to the play, even if you do come in. So great job here by Splice, getting an early kill for Cassio.
And now, even though Xerxes was, invaded and lost his red buff, he's coming immediately over with that mid lane pressure he has, because Humanoid walked straight back there. So he is able to way to steal those Raptors. Double check if he actually got them. He did end up getting those, I do believe.
Now checking in, Humanoid happy to have that tier early on. You can see Fofo taking a more defensive path.
Yeah, so he did just leave one of those Raptors. That's why it looked that way on the map. Now here, Norscairn actually holds his hook for such a long time, so it ends up missing on towards Hana, so they can't get that initial kill. But Koala, who didn't have a flash, has to use the headbutt there to proc the Aftershock and try to stay alive, but there's no real way you can escape from a Cassiopeia at that point in the game once Humanoid lands the Q, because with all that movement speed, he's just going to run you down.
And it was just a well-orchestrated play there from Splice, knowing they had the teleport, having the deep ward, being able to bait in this play, and Koala no flash is going to get punished for it, but in the meantime, Fofo had been farming it out. He is actually going Merc Treads here, trying to deal with some of the CC, and you can see some of the struggles that Humanoid really has been having. And this is, remember, 15th out of 16 mid laners in this, so he's actually tied for the most deaths, most ISO deaths. I believe it's actually with Niski.
Yeah, you look at it too, he's having a super heavy impact in the early game. And that's sort of the Splice story, where they do have successful early games, just like you can see with Humanoid on the screen, but it's then getting caught out in transition, because Splice will often fan out to 3 lanes in the mid game, and then those people farming in side lanes don't have the vision support, they overextend, and teams are able to punish them consistently. That's why their early leads usually don't transition into quick finishes, because, quite frankly, they get picked way too much.
But now they've got the early start once again. So as we look towards the mid game, look for them to turn it around. But for Humanoid, has to be careful here. Kayle ulti, of course, up and available. And J4 waiting around. Could potentially fish for a dive. They're very difficult against the Petrifying Gaze. Good dash out. Bizachachi on the top side. Going even for now in the matchup as the Ninja Tabby come out quite early.
And despite the really quick start here for Hana, he's still level 4, and it's past 7 minutes into the game, so really does need to pick up some of this farm. We have seen his Raptors taken away. Now he just lost his blue buff there to Xerxes, and Xerxes is going to get the jump here.
Humanoid, though, taking a lot of damage. Xerxes, smooth body slam over the wall to get away from the flag and drag there.
Quick moves out of Xerxes, but as you said, he does have that level lead, and that's going to come down to the efficiency in his pathing. Even though he did lose the red buff, he got the camps that mattered most. He was able to walk in, steal away the enemy Raptor camp too, so he will be spotted out here on this ward, but I think Xerxes is on the path now towards level 6, and should be looking to use that soon. Humanoid's real low.
But this is a level 4 jungler. Like, you could die so fast if you actually mess this up.
They do have Kayle ult, but no flash on Hana.
And I just have to wonder if Jarvan could be spending his time better somewhere else. There's just no camps up and available. He's so very far behind in terms of experience.
I mean, he's now setting up to try and invade onto this red buff. But again, he's at a 2-level deficit. maybe he could smite that away, but then you immediately lose the ensuing fight. A little surprised to see Xerxes not walk in there. He knows he doesn't have mid lane pressure because Humanoid had to go to base, so he makes the decision. He'll take even more EXP off that mid lane wave and give up this red once again.
And honestly, just very fortunate for Ana that he is able to take away this red buff, that he is able to grab this buff, get to level 5, still woefully behind the Gragas. Both these champions need that level 6 to be at maximum efficiency.
Yeah, he just hit 5. Xerxes is sitting at about 6.5, 6 2/3 or so. So certainly quite a bit ahead already. And he has his flash available. His Predator is going to be coming up here pretty shortly. He has the ultimate, so he has all of his playmaking tools to really try to go and make something happen on the map.
Yeah, Xerxes got an 800 gold lead at the moment too. One thing he likes to do is go for very early bases and then stay on the map until he can actually finish off his first jungle item. Not necessarily looking for the ganks, but looking for that big spike. Now he will be resetting while Hana does have the ability to play a little bit more aggressive. And this is one of the weaknesses with how Xerxes does path, is that oftentimes on these later Scuttle Crab spawns, he doesn't have the itemization to actually go and contest. But there you see it now, the Runic Echoes, this is when he looks to fight. Looking towards the mid lane now with Norskeren being the first support off the reset. They time these recalls together so they can try to make a play. Whether that's a kill or just vision remains to be seen.
For now, Humanoid has pressure in the mid lane. Norskeren will be spotted out, but the Gragas still remains an unknown factor. Pink's coming in, so looks like he will be able to play a bit more aggressively from Fofo. He knows exactly where the enemies are. Has to still be careful, though. Past the level 6 point, so he is ranged now, but can't really afford to approach the Cassio too aggressively with the Thresh kind of waiting in the darkness here, looking to go for a play. Ulti. Humanoid continues to push forward, and Fofo very patient on the Kayle ult there.
Even though they did spot the jungler, they've cleared out so much of this vision now, it's pretty difficult to actually face check into the Thresh, into the Cassio, so Splyce will just take this dragon, and J-Team really have no ability to even try to actually contest it.
I mean, this is where Splyce are completely in their element. When it's these set plays around the 10-minute mark, they decided, look, we had the resets, we timed them together so Xerxes and Norskeren could be back on the map first. That meant J-Team's jungler support bot lane, they were late to return back onto the map. So as this red side team does very easy time walking into that bot side river, they can quickly pick up that Drake and now have all the vision control too to deny plays around that bottom side of the map.
And the gold tells such a clear story at this stage of the game. How comfortably Splyce are in the lead. It's not massive leads across the map, but it is leads across the map. And for Splyce, the one game that they've won so far in this group has looked a lot like this game. Very controlled, very steady. That might change, though. Humanoid moving in. Jarvan, careful, trying to fish forward. They will get the Cassio out. Xerxes still going to go, but no. A beautiful stopwatch to deny it there. The barrel, not quite enough. A sliver of health ticking down for Fofo.
Humanoid used the Q a split second too early there, so the poison not there to finish off Fofo. But they do get the stopwatch to get the ultimate. A lot of major cooldowns burned there by Fofo to survive.
And the fallout from this play could be that top lane or bottom lane have to sacrifice a wave. You can see right now Koala pushing for a reset because they don't know where the duo of Splyce is going. Both side lanes have to be very, very careful, and Humanoid can teleport in towards this topside play.
Xerxes zooming up to the top side of the map. The ward comes down. He'll spot the Gragas out, but that is one very fast fat man running in. Are they going to fish for the play? The Kled all going to try to use to escape, but you walk right into Xerxes, and Humanoid's here too. A second clutch TP from Humanoid, and it looks like that's just going to be it for rest.
That's just a great teleport and a nice setup again here from Splyce. Being able to use this Cassio for early proactive plays is not something you often can do.
Now the question is, can J-Team stop this?
They're
going on!
A lot of damage. They're just trying to knock Humanoid out the flash out to safety, but it will not be enough. That is the shutdown. Koala going to grab it. A little bit awkward, but happy to have the kill.
I remember this exact same play happening to Splyce in the regular season, where they go top lane after the 10-minute mark, they get the kill, and then they walk into the river, but they don't respect the possibility for the enemy team to be there. They jump on Humanoid and get that kill. And because Splyce's dual lane had gone for the reset and not pathed up into the top side, well, Norskeren and Kabe aren't there to help in this situation. So the initial play is fantastic from Splyce, but they aren't aware of all those moving pieces and they get punished for it.
Yeah, so if this is one more time, honestly, no way out for Kled. At that point, it's just too well set up. Xerxes comes in, he's corralling him, he's standing there, he drops the ward immediately for the Cassio TP. But this is that overextension that you're talking about, not tracking the resets from the opposing team. Humanoid walking forward, trying to get some vision, but not understanding that they could have already been there. And they just pile in on him, getting the shutdown and denying the Rift Herald from being taken.
And this is where the snowball, gets slowed down a little bit because, they had a big gold lead, all their lanes winning out in CS, they get the early kills, but because they can't find that Herald, especially before the 14-minute mark, now they don't get the extra money off of plates. Now their plays are going to be stunted a little bit, and they have to wait maybe for another teleport from Humanoid before they can really get it going again.
It's definitely not the best, but Vizicachi still quite ahead, very comfortable in this matchup. Really ever since level 1 when Rest kind of had that failed level 1. Wasn't able to get the flash follow. He has just been put on the back foot, and this is a matchup where you are forever on the back foot unless you can all in, and his kind of time to do that has passed. So now Rest is going to be less efficient in the side lanes, and honestly, Kled, who's behind, is not very good in team fights either.
You can initiate, but you can't do a whole lot more after that. You can try to waste time, but realistically, Splyce have such good turn. We talked about it in the draft, the Cassiopeia and Kai'Sa. As a backline, it's always going to be super, super potent. Now Splyce, they are going back towards the Rift Herald. No marksmen, no bot laners can actually show up into this fight, and it's just going to be a free objective.
Easy for Splyce to take. They've got the pressure in the mid lane and the pressure on the top side. They can move into that one uncontested. J-Team, though, not going to let it go down without getting something else. They are now set up on the bottom side of the map. You can see that Kobbe does have to back off here, but it's all plates on the top side for Vizicachi. He can push in all solo as the Herald drops, and that's everything top side going in the favor of Splyce.
Yep, nice demolish proc there from Chachi. Now, J-Team have completely given up on the top side of the map. Look at all the vision control down bottom side. Control wards all the way down the river too, just to be able to trade for this tower down bottom side. But I really like the response here from Splyce to drop the Herald down mid lane when no one is here to defend. They can break this tower open while J-Team are caught putting pressure down bottom side. This is going to be huge.
Breaking mid so incredibly crucial. The Lantern comes out, but it's not going to stop the Kled. He is unstoppable. He does manage to get onto the Cassio, but dashes immediately to safety, anticipating the petrifying gaze. And that's just not going to result in much of anything. Stops the tower from dropping, though. Crucial for Rest to stop that play.
It's a little bit of zoning, but it's not like there was any follow-up even possible, right? You know, the rest of the squad is on the other side. His AD is still in the bottom lane. Even if he got straight on top of Humanoid, I don't think they really have the ability to take him down there.
It just feels like trying to buy space for the mid lane tower, making sure that it will not drop, because we know how much easier it's going to be for Splyce to play this game out once they do manage to break that mid lane open.
And J-Team would rather trade the Drake by losing the ultimate on Rest. They're not really looking to contest on that objective. They're much more willing to lose the Ocean Drake than they are that outer mid lane tower because of all its importance.
And at this stage of the game, it's going to get a little bit harder for J-Team. We've seen that one clever pick punishing Humanoid. Maybe need to fish for a few more here. Because as you mentioned, while the gold isn't too far apart, the game does get harder as we move later on.
2,500 is not an insignificant gold lead at 15 minutes into the game.
I'm going to be honest, I could not read that from this distance. I thought it said 2,300. I did not bring my glasses today.
Well, it's pretty good gold lead, right? And they've gotten a number of turret plates. The only turret plates that J-Team took, you can see they got no gold for. So they weren't actually in range. That means that it probably went down to minions, or they hit it and then backed off. You know, weren't really able to collect any of that, so didn't get anything from it.
Here we go. And Xerxes, of course, building ever closer towards the Zanyas. It's going to allow him to make very aggressive plays. And you can see both supports focusing around this mid lane. A lot of all-in potential with the Thresh Cassio as well as the Kayle Alistar on the opposite side.
One thing we always have to consider when we look forward in towards these team fights is that Splyce, they don't necessarily have to hard force with their spells that do engage. You have the Gragas spell, you have hooks. You don't necessarily have to throw your body into the fight where you can't disengage. Whereas J-Team, they absolutely must. Yes, they have tanky tools, but a Jarvan, once he's in the fight, he is in the fight. Same goes for Alistar, same for Kled. So when they are playing at a deficit, J-Team must be absolutely sure of these fights they take. They know they must have a numbers advantage or, you know, be able to find that perfect flank. Otherwise, you're going to be jumping into a whole lot of stats that you just can't make up for in the gold.
And then it feels like it's all eyes on Fofo, which for J-Team I think is no strange place to be, but the Kayle ultimate is going to be crucial for a lot of these champions who want to go in even when at a deficit, and can be, alongside the Xayah, a massive source of damage if they play out the team fights correctly.
If you can get the Kled ulting in on top of Kobbe or Humanoid with the Kayle ult, that becomes pretty disruptive, right? You have this squishy champion on top of you dealing damage, and AP Kayle Ultimate does a lot of damage as you get later into the game. You pick up more and more AP. It can get up to 300, 400, 500 damage, and does become pretty significant when you're looking for that 100-0 type potential.
I actually think that because of the Kayle on J-Team's side, this is one of the games where when you're playing Gragas, you're not actually using the barrel to engage, but rather disengage. Now TP behind.
Here comes the TP. Kobbe not going to be able to walk back to the Lantern, but the Kled will not find an ult. Xerxes caught in the middle of the entire team. He's going to grab it there perfectly right as it's about to time out, but now they have to flash. They have to retreat, but they're locked up in the Cataclysm. Fofo going to be allowed to free fire the feathers. They're going to be pulled back, and Norskarin going to go down. Still has the cooldown. Can still pull them back. The knockup is there. Vizicachi slowly but surely moving towards the Gnar, but he might not have time. Damage is coming in.
He's coming back up.
There it is. 2 into the wall. And Vizicachi sends a message to J-Team. They want to continue the fight. The feathers are pulled back. Humanoid's in trouble. The Kled goes in, and he goes right back out. J-Team still alive in the fight. On the retreat now. Vizicachi can't chase down. Still Mega. Mini will come out, but a very even fight, all things considered.
Really close fight. It could have been so much better for J-Team, but they lost track of Chachi going Mega there. They had all their eyes on Humanoid, who was getting very low and wanted to try to pile in and kill him, but that allowed Chachi to get that perfect Mega Gnar.
Yeah, he absolutely did, and it turns into a team fight win overall. It's 2 for 2, but the tower goes the way of Splice. You see this from the start. I think Xerxes plays it really well to try and escape here, kiting away so it doesn't look like he wants to pick up the Lantern. But then watch Norskarin. He misses the hook, which basically is a self-inflicted CC to set up for this 3-man ulti on Cortana, who also gets the Kayle ult on top, so he can't go down.
Now watch J-Team's carries try to step forward, turn back, step forward, turn back, avoid that ultimate. Now it's used, they're saying, all right, go for Humanoid. They try to charge through, and they just lost track of Chachi there. As soon as the Cassio ult was out, they thought the fight was theirs.
I mean, Fofo is frontlining on a Kayle who used his ultimate on the tank Jarvan to get in towards that start of the fight, so could have definitely been a big win for them. Now J-Team still down in gold overall. We mentioned the tower went the way of Splice there, so I do like the idea there from J-Team. We talked about how they had to be absolutely sure about the fights that they do initiate. That was definitely one that was in their favor, but they have to still be very, very vigilant of the items coming through, especially now that Humanoid has that Riley's Crystal Scepter. It becomes even more difficult to turn and run away from a bad fight that you take.
Especially with Phase Rush, right? You're able to kite back, you're able to chase forward and try to secure a lot of these kills, but we do need to see Norskarin being on point, because that fight also could have been even more in the favor of Splice had they played that a little bit better. But here comes the engage again.
That's the tower defense ulti. We've seen this before from Rest.
Seems appropriate. Just wants to take a break there in the mid lane. We'll stop Splice from pushing in for more. And while the gold lead definitely in the favor of Splice, 3K, this team, Vizicachi is really the big thorn in the side right now for J-Team, because while most of the team can match Splice, can stop them from pushing in for more, they can't stop Vizicachi as well. And this top lane tier 1 will not be a worthwhile trade for the bottom tier 2, as Splice just look to continue to extend their lead.
Well, it's really interesting because J-Team clearly had done their research, because we saw Koala walk all the way in towards Splice's topside jungle, trying to sit and wait to find a pick on an individual Splice member that went to farm side lanes. We talk all the time about how Splice do get picked like that in the mid game, but this time Splice much more coherent on that call, decide let's just split the map right down the middle. We'll trade for that second tier bot lane tower, pick up a Drake on top of it, and just lose that top lane tower as the only loss.
And I think what J-Team can try to do is have the Kayle matching Gnar, which is totally fine. But at this point, it feels like they're willing to actually just let the Kled get more behind in lieu of getting that Kayle ahead, right? They want to really put all the gold into the Kayle, get the solo turret gold, get all the experience, because they're saying, all right, all the eggs are in the Kayle basket at this point. Just allow this Kled to be an ultimate, to be a way into the fight, and not much else.
And most of the gold lead for Splice is in the hands of Vizicachi in terms of individual matchups, with J-Team funneling the gold into their respective carries. So a lot of eyes on him to be the Mega Gnar in the fight, to make sure when that engage comes in, he has the perfect answer for all those champions who want to dive forward. Rondo has to be careful. The hook will not connect. Splice now just taking control of this river, taking control of the area around the pit. They have a Mountain Drake, they have a Cassio, they have a Kaisa. Very easy for them to threaten the Baron with this composition.
Yeah, Splice just waiting for their flashes to come back up for the big Megas.
Ult goes out, but it's not going the right way. The Kled is going to get hooked. Good body block coming in from Rest. Could have been a disaster, but now pressure in the mid lane. Splice still not able to break down the tier 1 mid.
Splice really throwing a lot in there to catch out Littlefeet, are able to burn his ultimate. Now that he doesn't have the flash, it becomes very risky for him to position forward on the map. Now, one thing that our European Cassiopeias like to do is go side lanes. We've seen it from Nemesis, now Humanoid too, because Cassio wins basically every single 1-versus-1 matchup, especially the more items you get on this pick. She just drains down single targets. So something that J-Team need to look out for is that side lane matchup, because even Fofo with some items I think is going to struggle. So they need to either isolate that matchup and be able to find a pick with Hana or Koala, or just keep dodging it around and only pick up the minions as they crash into tower.
And vision control will be so important for Splice to ensure that it is a 1v1. Because if you push up too far in that side lane and all of a sudden Kled is coming through with an Alistar and multiple members, then you really can get knocked down. especially when you're playing top side of the map like Humanoid, because they're not even far away from that Baron.
It is Vizicachi, Meganar on the way. Tries to use the Randuins to slow down the opposition there. But his threat from the side, as well as the Gragas barreling forward, does mean that they will finally break Tier 1 mid. This is going to open up a lot of options for Splice.
Splice showing they're tracking the cooldowns, because Little V's flash was just seconds away from coming up as they made that crash through. They knew they had burnt Little V's ultimate on the previous play. The cooldown on Meganar lower than that of Xayah, especially after those nerfs. So now they're able to take a lot more control, potentially look for a bit more.
Some pretty important items have come through, though, for J-Team. You can see both Kale and the Xayah are on 2 items now and are going to be markedly stronger than they have been before. You know, heavy amounts of AD on this Xayah. The Kale is getting a lot of CDR. The healing starts to ramp up. The damage on the ultimate also. So if you can execute on the fight properly, J-Team does have ways to win.
Chachi's just poking for Meganar charge right now, and they're always going to have Norskaeren sitting in that bush, waiting for a hook. One good hook lands, you can find the initiation.
Wasn't that one, but now team has control of the mid lane. As Vizicachi gets closer and closer to filling that rage bar, J-Team eventually will be forced to back off. Cannot risk getting all in on, but still going to go in for the fight there. Norskaeren caught out in the Cataclysm, is forced to flash to safety, misses the follow-up hook, and now suddenly it's Vizicachi in the midst of the entire team. Rage bar slowly but surely stacking up. Meganar could be a problem now for J-Team. Have they tried to start a fight that they cannot win? That's one knock to the wall, but the Feathers pull back. Vizicachi will get taken down, and Fofo does not drop on the side of the fight. J-Team for now are in the lead. It's Alistair manages to make it out to safety. Goes over, trying to get a little bit more. The dismount comes in. Humanoid, there does so much damage. They have to be careful. That's going to be the Petrifying Gaze. You're looking for one more, but it might not be enough. Little V needs to get more damage down in the fight. 2 have dropped. Splice are turning the fight. A good flash from Fofo, but Splice will find it in the end.
And on the side of that fight, Norskaeren had a sick play to pull Hana out of his flag and drag that would have got him on top of Humanoid and perhaps allowed them to get that kill. They are on the Baron here. Koala is low, but they know it's going down.
Burning faster and faster. Fofo walks up to the pit, but it will not matter. That is Baron for Splice. They are firmly in control of this game.
Humanoid did so much work in that team fight. Great stuff coming through from him, because at the start, it did not look good at all here for Splice, but he's able to turn it around, finish off his 3rd item after the fight. All eyes on this player at his first international event too, because you can see in this play, it starts off with J-Team really good engage after they see the rest of Splice split up.
It was a great sidestep from Hana, and you're going to see Chachi just getting a little bit overconfident here. He comes out of that stopwatch and he wants to go forward. Lil V's reactions were fantastic though. If he actually landed that Meganar onto Lil V, maybe it looks differently, but you can see the Splice carries couldn't even enter the fight. Humanoid's on the side, Kabe's on another side, kind of zoned out by some of these members and not able to really find it. Now watch this play from Norskaeren here.
Yeah, he landed the hook at the start to stop Hana from taking that EQ in, and then of course that zoning tool right there with the hook as well forces another flash out of Fofo too. So in that team fight, Norskaeren showing up, and now on the thresh, he's got himself a Shirelia's Reverie, so he wants to get the whole crew involved in the next fight and be able to close the gap.
Such a powerful tool to allow him to reposition. The Kled ulti is so telegraphed. You can say, oh, we're fighting in a pinch. How about not anymore? We'll zoom the entire team right out, and it will no longer be a threat. Humanoid's so far ahead now, quite easy for Cassio to solo this Drake, and J-Team are in full survival mode. All they can do is hold on. It's a 6K deficit in a Baron. They just have to try as best as they can not to lose too much.
Yeah, Kabe now has the Gnasher's Tooth completed, so he should be sitting at the triple evolve. That's a wasted ult there from Humanoid, really trying to find that kill, but Splice now, 1minute and 40 seconds without that tool that should stop their ability to siege down towers, and they don't actually have a wave to work with right now. Chachi not getting a lot of attention thrown up towards his side, so that wave should fizzle out and they should play for mid.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they're just going to wait for Chachi or if they are going to head up to that top side. I would like them to just kind of push in multiple waves, but they're actually looking for a dive here on a Fofo.
Ult available, but I don't think he's going to get a chance to use it. Is now using it, but it might be too little too late. The Kled now coming in. Fofo goes down. The Kled stuck in this fight. He can't get out even if he wants to. The hook lands from Norskaeren, and he's going to have to retreat. He's going to get demounted here, but the pocket pistol will take him to safety.
And now Splice, they've got the Baron buff, they got everything they needed. Another wave comes on through, and with Fofo down, that's so much of J-Team's damage completely void. You have Kabe split pushing in mid lane as well. So Splice, in a situation where it looked like this Baron wasn't going to amount to much, have now cracked open everything besides those inhibitor towers.
And I think they can get the inhibitor towers here also. Fofo's still dead for a good 15 more seconds. Kabe is already dealing damage to this one. Humanoid on the other side too.
But pulverized, they can't fully commit. They don't really have any follow-up damage here. Little V not able to move into the mid lane, and Fofo is currently dead. They have time. They have the minions. They should be able to break the base. J-Team, what can they do to respond? just forced off of this tower. There's so much damage that they can't leap face first into a Cassio.
And Splice now, they've got the Gragas cask up as well, so they can push J-Team away from this tower. They can take yet another tower if they want to use that spell. Hook barely doesn't connect, but this another structure is falling down. J-Team can't do anything.
Mega Gnar slowly but surely starting to stack. He has a minion wave there to beat him. If he wants to double jump, he can fish for it. Vizichachi just going to bounce right in. Lands it on 2, and Splice now trying to clean up the fight, desperate to get something back. But both the carries know. One going down. Fofo is dead. It's all eyes on Little V, but it's just not going to be enough. Desire, the pull through the feathers. He cannot do it in the end. A heartbreaker for Little V and a triple kill for Humanoid.
A great initiation from Xerxes, and even better Gnar from Vizichapi, jumping straight into the base and getting another one for Splice.
A dominant finish to the game from Splice. From start to finish, it was a clean game, a few trades back and forth, but Splice will tie themselves up with J-Team 2-2, and Splice are looking to get out of this group.
And on the elimination day, when it really matters most, Splice turned in their best game of the tournament, looking dominant here over J-Team, who is considered by many to be one of the favorites to get out of this group.
Especially after Splice's loss to them too. Splice came in, didn't try any one of those level 1 shenanigans. They put Humanoid and Kave on the big carries. They got the comfort for Vizichachi in the top lane. This was a tried and true Splice draft. They played it how they needed to. They didn't fall into those mid-game problems that we've seen from them in the past, and they closed it out with very clean team fighting.
And critically, Humanoid had a big game for Splice, and we all were saying if he can step up in week 2, Splice can get out of this group. Splice can look so much better. But I've also got to say, looking over at the other side for J-Team, I hated the Gnar pick, or rather I hated the Kled pick into the Gnar. It just never was able to get anything done. And if you're not going to be able to play to that side of the map, if you're not going to play aggressively, the pick does nothing really for you. It gave them some engage, but
it stopped them from taking mid once or twice with ultimates.